Live Before Lock, she'll be taking you through the day's 14-game MLB main slate. A lot of things to hit on over the course of the hour, and we'll keep you abreast of all the items that you need to know to be winning at MLB DFS today. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my pal, the baseball savant, the snack himself, Mr. Jake Hari. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm doing well, man. Second time talking about the slate. Get to talk about all the sites now, and I think I feel pretty good about my crunches. I like what's coming up, so I'm ready, man. I'm ready to take down, what is it? I think it's 50K up top on DraftKings. There's some smaller prizes on other sites as well. Got some nice contests on Fantasy Draft. I mean, it's some good stuff. Did you see their football stuff, by the way? Fantasy
I
Draft?
did not. Has that officially come out yet? Are we allowed to say?
Oh, it's out. Yeah, we're allowed to say.
Okay, yeah. Give the people the details. I'll give the full plug after you tell them.
All right, cool. Let me just pull it up on the screen. All right, so these are some sick football contests. Like, I'm not just saying it because we're sponsored by Fantasy Draft. These are some really, really fun contests for week one. I'm talking about, of course. They've got, like, if you're a low stakes player, like mid stakes, they've got a $1, 150 max with 25K guaranteed. They've got a $4, 150, like basically same thing, like DK's mini max. But the good thing about this is that it's rake free. So I'm definitely going to be playing these tournaments. I'm really pumped after seeing that today.
All right, so you're going to be playing some football this year. I guess you did last year,
Oh,
too.
yeah, I
You
played
don't
last
brag
year.
about it much.
What's that?
You don't brag about your NFL conquests as much, but you do play a good amount of NFL, too.
Yeah, I play NFL. You got to. I mean, it's all over Twitter. It's like, it's just everywhere. So, yeah, I love playing NFL DFS.
So like Jake mentioned, FantasyDraft.com is the home of rake-free daily fantasy. It's only available on Fantasy Draft. You can play your favorite contest rake-free on Fantasy Draft, where 100% of the entry fees are paid to contest winners. For a limited time, Fantasy Draft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So you are not paying rake. $1,000 in entries in, you're not paying any rake on them. All the profits are going to you if you win. So go right now to fantasydraft.com. Go check out those tournaments that Jake mentioned. I'm sure they're fill up fast because we've seen before. Whenever there is not rake on things, as our other partners that we've had, they are getting a lot of signups fast. So go check it out. Go to fantasydraft.com and use the promo code AWESOMO to claim your free 7-day trial. So go, please support the show, support the YouTube channel, and go support our partners over at fantasydraft.com with promo code AWESOMO. All right, Jake, let's talk about the pitching here because we got a lot to get during the course of this hour. Maybe not as much as it seems, because I know with our projections at awesomeo.com, which also you can get with the promo code Live Before Lock for half off your first month, to do a double plug back to back. Go to awesomeo.com/join and use that promo code Live Before Lock if you want to see all the data that Jake and I are using. Walker Buehler is projecting stupidly, I mean, not stupidly in a way where it's illogical, but he is so highly projected. I'm getting him in almost every lineup. I have to really walk it back on my own. Are you doing anything different with Walker Buehler, or are you just going straight away and going to play a bunch of them?
I'm just playing a bunch of him. I don't really see a reason to avoid him. It's not like he's at a crazy high ownership or anything like that. So assuming he stays in somewhere in this 20-25% range of ownership on DraftKings, he was, I think, under 20 as well on FanDuel. Like, I don't know, he just looks like the best option to me, and it's oftentimes you'll see the best option be owned 35-40% like you saw with Sale last night, and I usually don't want to allocate that much of that percent of my lineups to a certain lineup construction, but it makes a lot of sense for me to take a ton of Buehler right now. So right now I'm over 40% on Buehler on DraftKings.
That is where I am too. And I really didn't expect to be there earlier in the day because his ownership in the beginning of the day jumped out to me. I think he was closer to maybe 30% on DK when I did the Four Corners video earlier this morning. And I kind of figured I would go in some other spots. I would try to get a little bit less in the field because that's felt like a lot for this size slate. But based on the projections in terms of raw points, he is pretty far away of the other guys. I still think there is strikeout upside. Like Robbie Ray is a guy I'm intrigued by today because I think he has pretty good strikeout upside against this Dodgers lineup that's been remade. The bottom of the order is not quite as good versus left-hand pitching, assuming that it is the same lineup that we're expecting right now. And Strasburg, too, I think also interests me. I think his strikeout stuff's been good enough, getting a park upgrade, too. I like those guys. But on a raw projection basis, Buehler is there, and the price isn't too onerous where it's decreasing the value. He is still the best high-priced value pitcher, according to our projections at Osmo.com. So I'm there. Are you going to have any leverage going the other way? I know we talk more about stacks in the back half, but with that much Buehler, are you thinking any other sort of pivots?
I don't think so. He's a really good pitcher, and so even if he has a bad outing, I mean, maybe he gives up like 4 runs. I don't think that's really going to get you very far unless you can find the guy who somehow gets a double dong or something like that. So I'm not super interested in taking hitters against him just in general, and especially not on a 14-game slate. So don't think I'll be getting there. I think there are better spots to leverage some of these cheap pitchers that kind of suck sometimes.
Okay, that is fair enough. I guess we should talk about at least one of the cheap pitchers who kind of sucks, because he's going to be the chalk pitcher of the day on DraftKings, much less owned everywhere else. But Mr. Drew Smyly, who when he was on Texas was not making many people smile, since he's been on Philadelphia, he's been looking better. He has had, I think, two out of 3 games were like actually good, and one was just like kind of whatever. I think, unless that last game was also a Texas one, I'm not sure offhand. But he's been looking better. He's had some upside. The price is still down. People are going to be playing Smyly at a high clip. Adam shipped my money on the last show on the Deeper Dive, who one of the people who I like to use as a control, and Jake, same thing for you, I'm sure, where we like to make sure, like, okay, if Adam agrees, like, I don't feel like I'm an idiot. Mm-hmm. He is very much Team Smyly today. He said he thought he would be over the field on him. That could change, I'm sure, with crunches and all that. But how are you feeling about Drew Smyly here? A nice low team total, a good pitching park. It is a spot where it does seem logical to go to him at that price.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot for Smyly. He's not a great pitcher, but he is also a guy who can get strikeouts in limited innings, and that's really, really valuable for 5,800 on a 2-pitcher site like DraftKings. So a lot of my lineups are Buehler, Smyly. His ownership is starting to creep up a little bit. I think I passed the game. All right, where's the game at? There you go. Ownership's starting to creep up a little bit, but you see why he's getting owned. I mean, anyone at that price that's a favorite or close to it in that park especially as well. I was joking with Alex on the Yahoo show that I think I would start myself throwing like 58-mile-an-hour fastballs if I was pitching in San Francisco. It's just such a good park. And, I mean, I completely understand it, and I'm right with the field right now on Smyly.
Yeah, from a value perspective, he does, according to our projections at Awesemo.com, project to be the best value, about a 2.5x value based on the most recent projection update that I have in here. And it does look good for, I mean, so the thing too is San Francisco, I mean, they're not, I do think people think they're a bad team, and this lineup today maybe not the best, but they have a couple guys in there. They've gotten some more guys in the mix who can actually hit. Like the only guy who's really bad in terms of and it's a very limited sample size versus lefties, is Vogt in that lineup today. And he's at a 39 WRC plus and only 25 at bats against the lefty. Everybody else here, though, I mean, you got a bunch of guys over an 89. Pilar is the lowest at an 89. You got Crawford at a 96 WRC plus, Ricard over a 101. Like, it's not a terrible lineup. So I could see going to San Francisco. I didn't, but like I could see going there because I really don't know that I'm buying the Smyly Renaissance.
They came up a bit for me, San Francisco, talking about as like minis, just because they don't have a terrible projection for their price. Like point per dollar, they're okay. If I was hand building, I don't think I would get to San Francisco even if I'm trying to leverage against Smyly. But in 150, I saw him come up in a handful of mini stacks, but that's really about it. I think this is a really favorable spot for Drew Smyly.
Yeah, I mean, it's about as good of a spot as he's going to get. But I guess he could have said the same thing. I think his last game where he wasn't that great was against the White Sox, if I'm recalling correctly, and that they need to confirm. I guess not actually either stadium. That wouldn't have been a great hitting park. Smyly, I mean, it's a pitching park here, so I would think that is a spot that it's going to help him out quite a bit. They played in Philly versus the White Sox last time, and he had 12.25 fantasy points in his last outing. 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, though. The strikeout jump is really strange. I don't really get what he's doing differently and why their pitching coach would all of a sudden tap into what Drew Smyly has.
Yeah, it's weird. I think he used to get some strikeouts, but then he was just gone for so many years. Like, he was gone for like 2 or 2.5 years, just out of the league with injuries and stuff. But yeah, different system can certainly change some things, as we've seen with like teams like the Astros, who just turn everyone into a superstar seemingly overnight, like guys like Aaron Sanchez. It's just funny that some guys have it figured out, some organizations have it figured out and are able to make the adjustments they need to make, and some just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, they need to tell Vince Velasquez and Zach Eflin and all those other guys the same things they've been telling Drew Smyly, I think. But
yeah, Velasquez has been solid.
He's getting better. The strikeouts have been there for him. He's just still getting shelled by lefties.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the pivots then, because we talked about the cheap end, we talked about the high end, but Walker Buehler is going to be a chalky play. But actually, I guess with our ownership, Strasburg isn't far behind him. Actually, I guess they're equal. Strasburg, Bauer, these guys are all in the same price point, or the same ownership point, rather. I like Strasburg. I think he's an interesting play. He doesn't quite project as well from a value standpoint, but I'm still okay with him. I also think, as I mentioned, Robbie Ray a little bit cheaper with really good strikeout stuff, over a 31% K rate on the year. I think it's a bit appealing, even though the risk of him getting barreled over and over again by the Dodgers is pretty high. I still don't mind Robbie Ray. What are you doing with the, let's say, 9,800 and over tier of pitchers? Are you going to any of these guys? If it's Caleb Smith, too, in that same mix?
Yeah. So probably not going to much Strasburg. We just have, like, the $500 up to Buehler, I'm finding myself able to get to pretty easily. So I'm a little nervous about not getting to much Strasburg here, but I'm just getting a ton of Buehler when I'm paying up. And then same thing with Bieber. They had a lengthy discussion on the deeper dive that I listened to about Bieber, just saying that he's very possibly the most talented pitcher on the slate, just like raw strikeout upside and obviously like fantasy point upside. And I think they made really good points. I'm just not really getting there because of how many more points we have Buehler projected for on DraftKings. It's like 4.3 more points. That's a huge margin for just a few $100s more. But I get playing Bieber at low ownership, especially in tournaments. And then Bauer's a guy I love, but I hate the park. I kind of hate the matchup with the Cubs here. And he's getting owned basically the same amount as Buehler, or he was earlier. Maybe he's dropped down just a bit, but don't really love the matchup against the Cubs, and especially in that park. And then they also, on a couple shows today, have made a good point about how being in the National League now, he's more likely to get taken out of the game earlier when his spot comes around in the order because he's got a bat, whereas he never really had to worry about that in Cleveland. So the guy I'm getting to after Buehler is actually the guy on the opposing rubber, Robbie Ray at 9,800, which I was not expecting to get to earlier today before projections came out, but he projects like a decent value, and I didn't think he would at almost 10K against the Dodgers, but if Pollock's out, that's a pretty nice boost for Ray as well. I don't know who they would put in for him, but the bottom of this lineup looks pretty weak. White, Smith, Negron, and Beede, and then the pitcher spot as well. So I'm liking what I'm seeing for Robbie Ray, even though it is a pretty dangerous matchup.
Yeah, we are on the same page as Ray. He was a guy who I kind of saw earlier in the day. I have like an amalgamated strikeout number that kind of goes with like each guy's splits and then adds it up together and puts it in. And he did jump off the page with me. The barrel ball rate, though, a 10% barrel ball rate this year does scare me a bit, even at Dodger Stadium, which does generally limit a bit of power. It's just a bit of a scary thing against this particular Dodgers team who just has so much power to go around generally. But I agree, like getting guys like Negron in there. Will Smith has been good versus righties. I think not so great versus lefties overall. Tyler White too. We've seen his flaws as an Astro. Same thing is still going to apply as the Dodger. Still just a 29% or a very high 29% K rate overall. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think Robbie Ray's an interesting one. I think with Bieber, it was the same thing. Somebody on the Four Corners yesterday commented, like, you didn't talk about Cleveland at Minnesota. And with Mike Clevenger yesterday, and I was like, I don't think that's the spot I really care about either side, because I don't think Clevenger's getting blown up. I also don't think he's going to do well enough against Minnesota because they're just kind of a competent hitting team. This is, as Adam pointed out in the deeper dive, pretty weak Minnesota lineup, but I just don't see Bieber making easy work of them, and I don't see them making easy work of him either. So I would just be inclined to avoid it because I just don't see enough upside on either side.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same Minnesota. Like, it's not full strength. So they lost. Cruz yesterday got hit on the hand or the wrist, left the game early, and so he's on the 10-day IL, so you won't see him for a while. And that's one of their better hitters, but also a high strikeout guy. They replaced him with Cave, who's batting ninth. So you're not getting that super high strikeout guy at the top of the order. I mean, Sano's getting a bump, but it's still not a great strikeout matchup against this Twins team for Bieber, and a healthy implied total against 4.5 runs. It's just hard for me to go to him over Walker Buehler if I can get that extra $800. In fact, I'm going to do a quick search and see if I got any Bieber at all in my first 150 that I filtered out here.
I would think you wouldn't with his points projection, because we are using the same ones from Awesemo.com. Of course, obviously we work here, but we are using the Awesemo projections. And I think the way that he projects, you're probably going to get Ray more than Bieber because they're about the same.
So factoring in everything that I factor in, I got 4 shares out of 150, so 2.7%.
Yeah.
He's up to 5%. I mean, he's super talented. I completely understand if you want to go there, if you're not crazy about Buehler or Strasburg or any of these guys, like, take a super talented pitcher. I think that can be a profitable strategy long term, but I don't know that Buehler's high enough owned for me to start thinking about moving a lot of exposure over there.
Yeah, I think it's logical. And the Twins lineup too, the lineup that they have entered in there today versus right-hand pitching, this has a 22.1% K rate, and also only 2 hitters under a 100 WRC plus, and those guys are Marwin Gonzalez, who's a 93, and CJ Cron, who's got a 99 going against righties. And this is not enough for me there. I feel like there's not enough meat on the bone, I think, for Beede to have a good day. He is so talented where it wouldn't shock me if he had a monster day, but based on the projections and what I see, and on a slate of this size, I would rather just go elsewhere. And I think you're full ride 150. Like, that's probably the percentage because the ownership on him is about 2% right now. So, yeah, let's talk more about Strasburg too, because I feel like he's the one that we're glancing over a little bit here. Then the Mets can hit, but I think this 3.9 implied run total here, getting a park shift, getting Joe Paddock in there, who also has no power either. He doesn't strike out, but there's not a guy who's a threat. I don't love going against the Mets because I think they're kind of cagey and they do a good job just staying in games and then just getting that 1 or 2 home runs that they need to get enough for a win. And that's what's going to probably help them out for the wild card. I think they're actually a pretty good bet to win the wild card. But I like Strasburg, a 30% K rate on the year, 3.2 xFIP, not getting up a ton of hard contact, not getting barreled much, just the 6.4% barrel ball rate. I'm okay with Strasburg. And I think, too, he projects really well. Over 20 points in terms of raw points projected for him with our projections at Osmo.com. Are you getting any Strasburg, given that he's going to be about 20% owned, it looks like?
I got to about 6% of Strasburg, and so about half the field. Like, and this is one where it's like, there's nothing wrong with Strasburg. Absolutely nothing wrong. You mentioned the K rate. The matchup's not terrible by any means, and I think he's in that upper echelon of pitchers where you would take him in tough matchups at this kind of price and generally feel okay about it. Low implied total against here. 3.5 compared to Bieber's 4.5 against. So I think I would rather go to Strasburg than Bieber, but honestly, I just think Buehler is a much, much better play than both of those guys tonight. And like I said, they're getting owned similarly. So for a cash game, I mean, I don't know if you can make a Buehler and Strasburg work. I think you can make that work on some other sites, but I don't know that it's very doable on DraftKings. If you wanted to go Strasburg over Buehler in cash, I mean, by all means go ahead, but I would be taking Buehler in cash and Buehler in GPPs, and that's reflected in my exposures right now.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm with that opinion. I still just like the idea of Strasburg, and I kind of wish I'd gotten a little more because I'm with you on the Buehler thing. I'm at 60% Buehler right now and a 20 max, and I think I'm okay with that number, but I kind of should have diversified a little bit more and just forced my way to a little bit less because I do like Strasburg. I got enough Robbie Ray in there. I'm above the field on him, but I think Strasburg is a guy who I'd feel comfortable with, and I agree. I would prefer Strasburg to Bieber, even though I feel like this year in particular, Strasburg has kind of had those blow-up days a little bit more than Bieber has, even though Bieber has kind of that lefty weakness. I think it's been a little bit easier to bank on Bieber than it has been Strasburg.
Yeah, Dodgers lineup out. Your boy Pollock is in. So
all right, there we go. Nothing to change then. Thank God.
I think. Okay. So it's Pollock, Turner, Smith.
Ooh, Smith got to bump up that lineup there.
Yeah. Why? I mean, it's not like I keep tabs on every player in the MLB.
He's been murdering righties on the year, like really, really good versus righties, but he hasn't faced a ton of lefties. So I'll pull up his season long numbers.
Yeah, he's a righty. You'd think he'd be okay against lefties. So, okay. I mean, that I wonder how that's going to affect Ray's projection, if at all. Just shifting around spots in that lineup. Seager. Okay, we've got it updated right here. I think Seager was supposed to be up into the 5 spot, and Smith was supposed to be in the 7. And I don't know what it was, but looks like everybody slid up, and then Seager and White slid down.
So Will Smith, I think Seager wasn't in the lineup. So yeah, he's in there, yeah. And which is odd. I don't know why you'd put a lefty shortstop in there. That seems like a strange one, who's not also good versus lefties. So that actually, I think that makes Robbie Ray better for me in terms of strikeouts, I believe. I think it just took a jump for me in that one category.
Yeah.
Okay. So Smith on the year, just to kind of close the loop on that, a 169 WRC plus, a 9% on run rate, and a 407 ISO so far. But versus lefties, he's only faced 19 lefties. He's at a .056 ISO and a -2 WRC plus. So he is, and a 42% K rate versus lefties so far.
42.
So,
well, how many?
So almost 20, 19 at bats.
Okay. So short.
So like, yeah, obviously that'll level out, but he has been like egregiously split versus lefties and compared to righties.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see. I hope Ray jumps up another tick because he's not getting really owned at all. We just got ownership again.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Cool. Let's see if anything has changed drastically. I doubt anything crazy, but let's see what we got.
Drew Smiley's still the highest guy up there, but he came down, I think, slightly. Walker Buehler went up a little bit to differentiate himself from the pack. And it looks, Strasburg actually might have come down quite a bit, it looks like.
Oh, wait. I'm not seeing. I'm seeing last update 43 minutes ago, but I got a message from the bot that said it updated, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, you're right. Huh.
We just got weird. Projections updates, though. That is confirmed. Last updated 7 seconds ago. So
there's definitely an update in here. Maybe the timer didn't change because I have completely different numbers for the most recent ownership I had, and I think I had the most recent one until this one.
Ray went up 0.01 points.
It's probably all our hyping him on the show.
Yeah.
They gave us the old live before lock boost.
Yeah, the live before lock boost. You just saw it in real time right there. But no, I mean, it wasn't going to change too much, but just wanted to see if that made it a better strikeout matchup or worse or what's going on there. But yeah, I'm interested to see what ownership is going to look like as soon as we get to lock, if there's any separation between these top guys, because 2 updates ago, it was 20% across the board for Buehler, Bauer, and Strasburg, I believe. And then there might have been even one more as well in there, at least on DraftKings. So interesting stuff when all these guys are bunched together.
I'm assuming no Caleb Smith for you either, because he is getting now a bit of ownership. He is that last guy in that high price range who we haven't hit on. And we just saw yesterday, I mean, Eliezer Hernandez had a hell of a day, which our projections did have it. I think I didn't do a show yesterday, but I did hear you guys talking about it. And I had him too when I was doing my crunches beforehand because he projected really well, and it ended up bearing out. Any Caleb at all for you in this spot? Because Atlanta's not a team I usually try to go against.
I got to 3 out of 150, so essentially no Caleb Smith, which pains me because I love him. I loved him last year, but he just doesn't go as deep as these guys up at the top, and honestly, it's just not a good matchup for a 10K pitcher. So probably off Caleb Smith tonight. Did you get any of him?
No, I didn't get any of him. I feel like it's worth addressing because I agree. Like, I like him a lot as a pitcher. I think he's really talented, but doesn't quite go as deep into games as some of the other guys. And the spot versus Atlanta is just not what I'm trying to go against. And he's also getting hit pretty hard overall, giving up pretty good isolated power and a 10.1% barrel ball rate too. So like that's one of his flaws. He's one of those guys that just gives up power. And it's a completely different pitcher. But we saw with Matthew Boyd yesterday, when you have these guys who give up power and you have guys who don't give up power, I'd rather go to the guys who don't give up quite as much power. And Caleb Smith, unfortunately, is not immune to that.
Right.
Let's talk about, we're almost at dong picks. We will get to those momentarily. The painful experience that it has been for me, like getting wisdom teeth pulled is what dong picks are every day for me. But we have some other guys who have ownership we should probably hit on. Tyler Beede as a pivot to Drew Smiley. Is he somebody you're getting at all?
Yes, I did get to some Beede. Let me see what I got. On the last update, he was actually my 3rd highest owned pitcher behind Ray and Buehler, right actually ahead of Smiley. So they started to separate in terms of ownership. So Beede got bumped up a little bit for me at 13%, and Smiley's at double the ownership. I got basically the same amount of them. One more Tyler Beede lineup. He's not a good pitcher, but again, just the park makes such a big difference when you're pitching at this park and you're 65 on FanDuel, on DraftKings, Beede, I can't even remember, 53. Yeah, I mean, when you're that price and you're pitching at this park, I will basically play whoever, just absolutely no shame. He's had good performances. Like, if you just look at the game logs, he's capable of going 90 pitches, getting you 5 innings, and hopefully 4 to 6 strikeouts somewhere in there. You're not looking for the 8-inning 5K game he had a few weeks ago or the 7-inning 4K. Like, you just need him to be okay for that price. And there are some really nice expensive bats to pay up for with high implied totals. Astros, Yankees, Red Sox. I mean, those are some pretty good teams, and Beede allows you to do that at lesser ownership than Drew Smiley.
Yep, same. I'm with you there. We have him at about 13% projected ownership. I'm currently about double the field on that, a little bit under 25% is what I have. I don't know why I was trying to be so evasive there, but yeah, like it's like I just see the reason there with that much Smiley ownership. I think it makes sense to kind of go with Beede, and I agree. He's not a great pitcher. He's had better strikeout numbers in the beginning of the year, which have come down substantially, and it's not the most exciting in the world, but it's still a play that I think is worth making a bit because Philly is just a team. I feel like we talk about them often on this show. And I don't trust them very much. I don't think they're very good. The park is a big downgrade for them as well. And yeah, I don't mind going to Beede here because, as Jake mentioned, the park is going to help him out quite a bit, keeping balls in play and keeping balls inside the park. And that is something that Beede needs. And he also has a little bit of strikeout stuff. I mean, a 20.5% K rate is under league average, but it's still a number that can get you some Ks against a Philly team with a 24% K rate in their projected lineup.
It's just weird pricing for both of those guys in that park with this pretty low implied total for 2019 baseball. So I think you got to at least take advantage in multi-entry formats.
Yep, I would agree there. Two guys we're getting ownership. I just feel like we should touch on fast before we go to Dong picks and the stacks in the back half of the show. But Kyle Freeland and Julio Teheran. Teheran I was more interested in the beginning of the day because I think he actually plays a little better than Dallas Keuchel did yesterday, as we saw. I mean, it's easy to say that now, but I think the matchup here for a righty is a little bit better versus Miami than the one versus for a lefty. And I don't mind Teheran because I think he does limit damage fairly well, even though he's not got a great xFIP, over a 5 xFIP. But Freeland, too, I also don't mind as a value play with how cheap he is. He is cheaper than Drew Smiley. He is cheaper than Tyler Beede. And he has shown some potential and some ability in the past, and he is getting a park upgrade as well, even though the Padres are just a team who can murder that side of the plate for pitching. So I really don't know. I don't have a strong take on Teheran because I ended up with less of him than I thought. I have a little bit of Freeland, but less than I would have anticipated too, because I'm just afraid of Tatis and Machado because those guys just obliterate lefties. What are you going to out of Freeland and Teheran?
Yeah, I'm getting to some Freeland. I mean, just another one of those guys that's super cheap where he's stretched out. If things go well, then he's going to easily pay off this price tag. They don't even need to go that well. He could still give up a couple runs and be fine. Padres, they have a lot of power, so it's a scary matchup, especially for a guy we've basically seen have one good start in Freeland. But, he's under 5K, and I think he can pick up some strikeouts here, and hopefully he's got that ground ball rate under control, or the fly ball rate under control, and just can kind of limit damage here. So completely understand Freeland. Right now I'm getting to right around the field. I had 15% when he was 12. And then the guy on the other side, Quantrill, another one who I don't think is that great, but got to a bunch of him because, again, he's cheap and he allows me to fit in some really expensive bats and allows me to fit in one of Buehler and Ray as my SP1, which is kind of my favorite lineup construction tonight. The other one you mentioned was Teheran?
Yeah, Teheran.
So good matchup against the Marlins. I think he's just kind of priced at a weird point at 8,800. I actually wish he was priced lower just so more people would play him and I could kind of avoid that even more. But I got to 14 when he was at 15%. So it's just like a whatever play. You're never pumped up playing Teheran at 8,800. But it is a really exceptional matchup against Miami in a big park that's pitcher friendly.
Yeah, I mean, he projects really well overall from a value perspective, despite that higher price. And I have some of him. I think I'm also with the field on the 15% ownership. And, Marlins on the air, 25% carry to 125 ISO, 75 WRC plus. Not very good. Isan Diaz also be in the lineup. He's a guy who's probably going to strike out quite a bit. He also has a lot of dangerous power. Even his limited sample size, he's a 273 ISO. And in the minors as well, he's had a ton of power. But a guy who's striking out right now at a 42% clip versus righties, and I'm sure that'll trickle down a little bit, but not a bad spot at all for Teheran here against Miami. All right, we're at the halfway point of the show, Jake. Let's do Dong picks, updating the standings. Nobody got one yesterday, right? I just put it all on the sheet, but I assume nobody got one.
No, Josh gave me good advice that I didn't take. I should have taken Urshela again. I would have had back-to-back double dongs.
Yeah, that was Urshela. I mean, so we should talk about this in the second half of the show, but I don't think the Yankees are going to do that today. I think they're way overowned. I think people are going to see all those double dongs and be like, got to get on Urshela, and it's just going to be like he'll have a normal day.
I mean, could be. We'll see. I hope you're wrong on that.
I mean, Aaron Judge had a straight 0 yesterday, I believe. Based on the lineups that I can recall of mine, he had just 0 points. JD Martinez and Mookie Betts not much better either. I think Mookie also had a straight 0, and JD had like a couple hits but did nothing.
Yeah, the Judge 0 really kept me from having a really nice day there. But
yeah,
I had him in like 50% of my lineups. So that 0 for 5 really hurts when he's your highest exposed hitter and second highest exposed player. But, that's going to happen. I think maybe something's wrong with him. But the rest of the Yankees lineup is just crushing every night, it seems like. And another high implied total tonight. So we'll see.
And it is a good hitting park again for the Yankees. We'll talk about them in the second half. And I don't think Suarez and Almora got home runs, so I'm just going to put these guys down for zeros. But on the year, first place still EMAC with 26 total dongs, 23 correct picks. Jake now within striking distance with 22 total dongs and 20 correct picks. Josh is now still in third, 20 total dongs and 18 correct picks. I am still closer to Josh. Josh loves to act like I'm really far behind him. I'm breathing on Josh's neck and whispering in his ear with 17 total dongs and 16 correct picks. One Christian Yelich away this week. If I hadn't been an idiot and been shamed by you two out of picking him on Monday. Been right there with Josh. And Chris Randone bringing up the rear with the least amount of picks too, but he's 3 total dongs, 3 correct picks, and a 12% pick rate for him. So he'll get hot in the second half. I feel like that's going to happen. I would like to see him win somehow. I know you guys said I have no shot. I think everybody has a shot as long as you just got to get on a heater. So, Jake, I'm going to get on mine with Yordan Alvarez. He is a guy who I had he's the cover athlete of the Four Corners thumbnail today. And I'm just going to pick my cover guys for every day from now on because they've been doing better than my actual picks have. So Yordan Alvarez for me going against Dylan Bundy.
Good pick. Guy with massive home run issues. And good park, high implied total. He's going to get a lot of at-bats here, you would expect. And, can't argue with that pick at all. Looking at my exposures, I think I'm going to a Yankee once again.
Please tell me it's Gio. Please tell me it's Gio.
No, I think I kind of hate taking this guy because I think he's he gets such an advantage from hitting in Yankee Stadium, being a lefty. But I'll take Didi Gregorius.
Okay, Didi Gregorius, and we'll keep you guys updated if the other guys or when the other guys bring their picks in. But Yordan Alvarez and Didi Gregorius for me and Jake respectively. So Urshela's numbers really rounded into form now. He's faced 260 righties and he's got a 132 WRC plus, 205 ISO. Just a 15% K rate. Like, he actually might be like their third baseman moving forward, even though I think he wasn't, I don't know, he was super touted, but he's a guy who I feel like is going to fit that role and should be able to keep doing it.
Yeah, he's been absolutely smashing. So pretty hard to take him out of the lineup no matter what happens, no matter how healthy the Yankees get. Hard to take that hot bat out of the lineup. But EMAC did message me the order. Whomever doesn't get picked, he said Renfroe, Myers, Machado, Tatis. So,
all right. So Hunter Renfroe it is.
Renfroe?
Yep.
All right. You got that?
Yep. I got him in.
All right, cool.
And
so
we'll
shocking that
Sorry, go ahead.
Shocking that EMAC took Hunter Renfroe. We've never seen this movie before.
He's done it 3 times this week. Hunter Renfroe has just crapped on his face 2 times in the week with zeros, and he keeps going back. But I respect EMAC's conviction. He's got something here. Like, there's really a theme. If you're like an FBI profiler who looked at like EMAC's picks, you'd be like, there's a, like you did like the home. You don't watch Homeland, I'm sure. Or didn't watch Homeland on Showtime. No. So there's a, it's an FBI thing, and there's a character played by Claire Danes who's like going through all this stuff, and like she has like the wall with like all the photos and arrows connecting it and whatever. Like that's what EMAC would be, like a hoarding wall full of home run picks where he's like got flow charts and things. And sometimes it pays off, sometimes it ends up with Hunter Renfroe just bombing 3 times in a week.
It's just Vogelbach, Matt Adams, and Renfroe.
Just a mural of the 3 of them. We're like a Last Supper table of all the fat first basemen.
Yeah, exactly.
But those are the picks, so please go check them out. Go check out the Osmo MLB handle because at Osmo MLB, because they will be putting out our dong picks, and then you can reply to it and give your own, so you can feel really smart if you are correct at the end of the day. Let's go check out that handle, and of course the at Osmo_com Twitter handle as well. We're going to do the stacks here, and we should segue into the Yankees. But first, real quick, thank you again to Fantasy Draft, because they are the home of rake-free daily fantasy sports, and it is available only on Fantasy Draft. Now you can play your favorite contests rake-free on Fantasy Draft, where 100% of the entry fees are paid to contest winners. For a limited time, Fantasy Draft is offering a free 7-day trial on your first $1,000 in rake-free entries. So go to fantasydraft.com and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. It's going to be your free 7-day trial today. So thank you to Fantasy Draft, and go support them. As Jake mentioned up top, the NFL contests are going to be really good. MLB's also been really good for a lot of people. So go check out fantasydraft.com right now with that promo code AWESEMO. All right, Jake, tell me about the Yankees. Actually, I'll give you my point up front. So Sean Reed-Foley, I don't think a bad pitcher. He's not showing a lot this year, but he's still keeping the ball down, still not giving up a ton of home runs, still not getting barreled, just the 4.5% home run rate. Going back to last year, he had a 24% K rate. Wasn't giving up a ton of hard contact either, just a 35% rate overall. So I don't think he's that bad. I think he can certainly give up some power today, but I would be more inclined for mini stacks or one-offs. I don't think a full stack's going to get here today. But what do you think about the Yankees? Their ownership has come down, to their credit.
Yeah, so their ownership has come down, and they have a great chance of being the top stack. If you look at the Awesemo top stack tool, which you should be looking at if you're a premium member. Actually, I believe that is free on Fridays, so you could probably check that out even if you're not a member. So go look at that if if you like good content and a nice comprehensive look at the slate. But it's nothing really against the Reed-Foley other than the Vegas total that he's got going against him here. I think he's not a terrible pitcher, but it's just the Yankees have so many good hitters that they're just so deep and they're not getting owned as much as they should be. I saw Romine was at 3%. For a catcher that's not crazily priced on a team with a near 6 implied total, it just seems like they're under-owned once again. So I'm going right back to them. I get that the pricing is better on them today because they're outside of Yankee Stadium and outside of Baltimore, but they look similar to me as they have the last few days, and I've just been hammering them repeatedly.
Yeah, so I've had them the last 2 days, more so 2 days ago, a little bit. Well, no, yesterday I was a little bit above the field on most of them. So I can see the reasons why. I just think today, especially with where the ownership was earlier, now it's kind of reasonable with Aaron Judge out of there. It's not as high, and Gregorius is going to be the highest owned Yankee, it looks like, on DK at 13%. So I don't have a problem going to them with this ownership that they're at now. I just think it's a weaker lineup. I mean, Ford and Valera are pretty bad down at the bottom there, at least in a limited sample size. Ford only has a 62 WRC plus versus righties. Valera 36. So these guys aren't generating a lot of runs down there. And the overall numbers, I mean, the strikeouts, they're not striking out a ton, so that's a positive for them. And being in Toronto as well, with the roof open, is going to be a positive as well, one would assume. But yeah, I just think Reed-Foley is not as bad as it seems, and not as bad as the last two pitchers they faced. And I would be okay. I'm not trying to roster him either, but I just think he can kind of inhibit the damage they've been doing. I don't see double donks today. I don't know that I want to bet money on it, Jake, but I think there's no double donks coming out of the Yankees today, would be my guess.
I think that's a good guess just for any team, any day, probably. But no, I get what you're saying.
Calling out my not brave take.
No, I get what you're saying. I mean,
they've had like three guys with double dongs in the last 2 days. That doesn't happen. I think people might get a little clouded by that, but that doesn't happen very often.
Right. Yeah, they're not going to keep up this pace. But I still think some of these guys individually, like while their ownership may be high on a few of these guys, you're still seeing low ownership on the bottom of this lineup, which has been crushing. They're not bottom of the lineup hitters, a lot of them, and Reed-Foley hasn't been great. Toronto bullpen isn't great, and the roof being open certainly helps.
Yeah, that's all fair. Look, I could be wrong today. I'm not as much on the Yankees today, and I've been with them a lot. And today is a day I'm jumping off the train. But that was a decision I made kind of earlier in the day, which I could have walked back a little. But I don't operate my life that way. I just make my opinion in the morning, and I stick with it through the entirety of the day.
No. This is DFS. When the information changes, you adapt. Come on.
No, I know. You're right. I should be at least with the field on New York right now, but we're on the show, and it's not going to happen. So. It's just life. Let's talk about Houston, though, and actually have a question in the premium Slack right now, which does come with that Awesemo Plus membership. So go use that promo code live before lock at awesemo.com/join. SJM26B asking Bregman and Altuve or Mookie and JD Martinez for fantasy draft cash. So those guys, I think there is a sort of clear cash option here based on the ownership, but Which way are you feeling, Jake?
Bregman and Altuve
Or
versus
Mookie and JD?
uh I think it's Mookie and JD.
Yeah. I think ownership wise, it'll be there. I certainly like Bregman and Altuve, and I think they're strong plays, but I think the ownership will be there much more for Betts and JD. And it's a really good spot going against Berea. Actually, I guess we could segue there too, since we did both pick that side. Berea's righty splits. He is a reverse splits pitcher where he's just getting shelled by righties, but actually pretty good versus lefties. Giving up a 234 ISO to the right-handed bats with only a 17% K rate. Those are not good numbers, to be clear. And Berea is in a park, which is going to help out righty power as well. I really don't have any issue with playing the Red Sox at decent volume, at least in line with their ownership, where they are going to be pretty decently owned for that top four. What are you feeling about Boston here going against Berea?
Yeah, I like Boston quite a bit. And Berea is not only, would you expect him to have issues with lefties? He's actually been worse versus righties. So you get two righties and three righties, Betts, JD, and Bogarts, all expensive. And it's kind of difficult to fit him in, which makes them appealing. So yeah, I absolutely love Boston. I think they're right up there with the Yankees as one of my favorite stacks. Looks like some of their guys are coming in a little bit lower than the Yankees because the Yankees are more affordable. But yeah, Mookie is going to be way up there for me, as is JD and Devers and all these guys. I think they're being underrepresented right now. One of the teams that is underrepresented on the top stack tool as well on DraftKings and Yahoo especially. Well,
yeah, a lot better chance of being a top stack compared. Well, I guess not a lot better, but a significantly better chance of being a top stack compared to the ownership. So yeah, I would agree there. And I just think it's a good spot. And one way to differentiate, if you are playing on DraftKings in particular, just putting Christian Vasquez in there. I mean, there's no problem putting in the fifth man as a catcher, and he's just 5% owned. People are not making that as a move today, but there's a lot of ownership for Betts, Devers, Bogarts, and JD. And that's one way to differentiate in a very logical way without getting too crazy. So 6.8 implied total too.
Did you make a training day reference in chat right there?
I did. It's just more the GIF. The GIF just perfectly captures what
that movie's actually really good. So that's one I have seen. I love Denzel Washington movies. So that's one I went out of my way to see. I can't remember why, but I just watched it on my laptop alone, and I was just super into it. So I did understand that reference.
Oh, way to go. The insert Captain America, I understand that reference GIF for you. But no, I'm glad you know that one. And also, I consider this show our personal train day. Both me and Josh, we're like the Denzel to your, is it Ethan Hawke?
Yeah, it's Ethan Hawke. He's in Sinister. That's what I knew him from first. And then, his name's Jake.
We're just giving you PCP every day. Just trying to get you off the straight and narrow as best we can.
Exactly.
Adam Reck. So I want to talk about Houston because they are my preferred stack on the day. And also, I got to give this guy a like too. The EMAC making his dong pick in the premium Slack from N. Steinmort made me laugh too, with Thanos doing math. But Adam Redcamp asking Blue Jays love tonight. So I'm intrigued by the Blue Jays. I didn't get there as much as I thought I would because there's just not much ownership on Happ, so the leverage wasn't there. But I think he can give up big power. He had one big day in Toronto, I think, earlier this year, which a revenge game for a pitcher, I do think is kind of a thing, but we're coming back a second time. Toronto's been hitting better. Bo Bichette's a beast. Allegedly, people are saying his, I mentioned that I think he's a short guy in the four corners. Somebody's like, he's 6 foot or he's built a 6 foot. I'm like, that's a real rough 6 feet if that is the case. But a tiny dude has been raking the ball, setting rookies double records, like just a good hitter. And these other guys too, pretty good power versus lefties. Are you getting any Toronto going against J.A. Happ?
I'm not getting much Toronto. A little bit worrisome just because I like Bichette and he started off super hot. And they're not even going over owned or anything like that. So it's just a projections thing. They're not, they're kind of in that mid tier for me. But if I'm going to a team that's priced like in the mid fours like this, especially on DraftKings, it's just going to be on the other side with the Yankees. I think that's, for me, just a better spot, higher implied total, all that, same park, and I think a lot of better hitters than what the Blue Jays are rolling out there. And I think Happ's better than Reed Foley, even though Happ hasn't been great at all this year.
I mean, it's been a long sample size for Happ going back to last year, 950 batters he's faced, and he's got a 202 ISO allowed to righties. So, I don't hate the idea of going there, especially to a guy like Bichette who's just been hitting the ball really well. Seems like he's seeing it really well, too, in a way, this is a weird comparison, but I feel like he hits kind of like Christian Yelich, where he's hitting in a way where he's hitting with different trajectories and different angles and stuff in a way that I really have appreciated, even to my my naked eye, I'm just like, wow, it seems like he's hitting in a unique way, like tomahawk chopping some hits. So yeah, I think he's an interesting play as a one-off, and I think too going to the Vlad, Bichette, Grichuk stack looks like it'll be a little bit owned. But yeah, I really don't hate going to the righties here in particular because just there's been so much power by Happen. The roof is open and it's still been a good home run park. So don't hate the idea of it, but not going to be owned. That much is for sure. Let's talk about Houston. And by the way, we do need some likes too because it's Friday. We got to get the likes up. So please hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube right now. I guess you could be watching on Periscope, but if you're on Periscope, go to YouTube, like it too. And we'll talk about Houston. Houston's only going to be as good as the amount of likes we get. So if you're playing Houston today, especially, make sure to hit that like button. Let's talk about them because they got a 6.4 implied run total here going into Baltimore. So they are getting possibly the park upgrade of all park upgrades on the slate. Also going against the Baltimore bullpen is terrible. Dylan Bundy, a guy who can get strikeouts, a 23.8% strikeout rate on the year, 13.1% swinging strike rate, so he can miss bats. But the Astros obliterate right-handed pitching. They have a 204 ISO on the year, a 117 WRC+. Their actual lineup really not far off of that. It might be even a little better. And I picked Yordan Alvarez. I like them. I'm willing to pay the premium prices for these guys. What are you doing with Houston, Jake?
I am kind of upset with myself that I'm not getting more of them. So I'm getting Houston stacks. I thought today, like when I looked at the top stack tool and based on how I filter everything out, I thought I would just get a ton of Houston and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going, in on them against Bundy. But the pricing is so restrictive that even when you're trying to pay up for bats, and I'm talking about DraftKings specifically, it's just really tough to make even like a 4 or 5 man stack with the Astros. So I'm getting them a lot in like 3s and 2s. I'm sure I have some 5s mixed in there, but I guess I'm not making a massive stand on them, even though I really would love to have them as my top stack, just because they're tough to get to. But
yeah, so I would say this is one of those like pay up to be contrarian spots because you just have so many guys who can hit the ball well here. Their worst hitter in their batting order today is Josh Reddick with an 84 WRC+, which that is one of the tells I try to look at for whether I want to stack a team. And obviously going against Bundy in this park too. Like there's just so many factors going here where I just wouldn't be shocked if this game went off and had like a 10 implied run total. Of course, watch Bundy just have a perfect game today because that's just how it goes when you make a take like that. But like 6.4 implied runs have come up a little bit throughout the day. And Bundy does strike out righties, so I guess if you want to make a case, like maybe he can get through some of the righties here, but the righties in that lineup, like who's really striking out? Correa is above league average, Chirinos is above league average, but everybody else here, the aggregate K rate for them is just 18% versus righties. So I just don't see how Bundy stays alive, and I just don't see how he doesn't get gobbled up. And then we get to that bullpen, they could just murder that bullpen over and over again.
Yeah, it sets up so nicely for Houston. Bundy just like he's got home run issues against both sides too, and Houston just does not strike out. One of the deepest lineups too, so you're just getting good player after good player after good player. Like someone's gonna get him, I would have to think here, even if Bundy has one of those annoying starts. So like there's no way I'd be full fading Houston or anything like that. But hard to make a true big stand on them. Even getting like double the field on them right now, I think is something I'd be really interested in, but I can't quite get there.
Yeah, it's fair. We should talk. So let's do a tangent. We don't like doing either ors because generally Eric Owen asking for an either or in the chat, but I can use that as a segue, so we'll do it. But generally just use the projections at Osmo.com if you can, because that's going to be the best way for an either or for the most part. But he's asking for a FanDuel. Eric Owen is asking for a FanDuel GPP. Would you go for a Grandal or Aguilar? And I think we should use this to talk about Milwaukee, even though Aguilar is not currently on Milwaukee. He was a former Brewer. And Grandal is going to be pretty highly owned as a position player on DraftKings. And I guess it's come down a little bit throughout the course of the day. But still on FanDuel, he is going to be fairly popular as well. What are you doing with Grandal? And would you go Grandal or Aguilar if you were on FanDuel?
I think I would go Grandal. I believe he's projected for more points on Osmo.com. That's how I would build my cash lineup.
We're gonna bring it full circle, Jake. That's why we're a good team.
No, I seriously, that's how, like when I play cash, that's how I build my cash lineup. It's just like, you run the optimal lineup as close to lock as you can, and that's your cash lineup. You can maybe do a 1v1 or a 2v2, but I wouldn't be trying to swap too much. Like these are the best projections you're gonna find, so take advantage of them if you're playing cash games. The Brewers, let's see here. Where did I end up on Milwaukee? I just ruined my crunch here. I don't think I ended up on a ton of Milwaukee. Just other spots that I like better. It's, again, 14-game slate. I don't know much about Allard, but a good implied total here for the Brewers. Not as high as I would think, especially with the roof open, it looks like, and being 80 degrees in Milwaukee, a good hitter's park. No Yelich just makes that lineup look a lot worse. So you've got Keston Hiura at almost 5K and some really cheap spots at the bottom. So it's understandable to get to them, but they're not like higher than Boston, and that's what they would need to get for me to have them be super high exposed stack for me.
Yeah, I mean, they're just so chalky overall. Like, I would like to get there too, but I just saw that ownership earlier in the day. And Colby Allard, I mean, he was terrible in the majors last year, to be clear. He did pitch 67 or face 67 batters going back to 47 going back to last year. And he had a 2.9 whip, a 7.4 xFIP, just a 6% K rate, just a 23% chase rate. These are all really, really bad numbers. He gave up a 270 ISO, but in the minors, he really hasn't been that bad. He's had about an average strikeout rate. He's also been giving up about, like, I think a 1.4 whip, just off the top of my head. But he's not been terrible in the minors. So I think he regresses to the mean a little bit here, especially with no Yelich in there. And Hiura has been hitting well, but still on the year, only a 156 ISO versus lefties. So I'm not crazy about this with the ownership on them. I like Ryan Braun at 6%. I think that's a pretty good one-off to go to. A ton of hard contact for him, going against the power that Allard has given up historically in the majors in that limited sample size. But yeah, I just don't think it's the spot I'm trying to go to, and the prices really aren't as appealing. And same thing you mentioned for the Yankees. Like, I would rather pay for the Yankees, and I'm not really playing them either.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem. Is I have a cheaper team, or a team at basically the same price that I like a little bit better. So, what about KC versus Edwin Jackson?
Yes. I was gonna go there. So a ton of KC. They project really well. Edwin Jackson, the gas can of all gas cans, I think, with a 2.2 whip, a 6.5 xFIP on the year. Going back to last year, giving up a 232 ISO, a lot more power to righties as well, with a 261 ISO to that side of the plate. Yeah, I'm going to KC. Their implied totals come up throughout the day. They're going to be chalky. I guess I don't care. I'm just going to do it and stuck it up. I have some more 3-mans, though. I did try to get a little more 3-man in there because the 5-man's going to be pretty highly owned. But what are you doing? I feel like you're going to be fading KC or something. I'm going to be sad.
No, I'm not fading KC. Okay. Yeah, no, they're just really good value. So I like Gordon quite a bit. He's one of the better value plays on the entire slate. Depending on what site you look at, of course. But I've got all these guys in like close to double digits, and I just don't really see a way around it. Like, Jackson is so bad. 6.1 implied total Alex has him at. Even though they're getting over-owned, that's expected because their top value percentage is by far the highest on the slate, almost double anyone else's top value percentage on the rest of the slate on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they're the only team that's above 8.6%. They're at almost 11% right now, being the top value as well. So yes, technically over-owned, but such good fillers, I think, especially even if the 5-man stack is going over-owned.
Yeah, the projection's just out of control for these guys. I mean, you're getting over a 10-point projection for Dozier, Soler, and Merrifield. Just under it for Alex Gordon. Not far behind for Chesler Cuthbert, who has actually been pretty good versus lefties, not so good versus righties. I also don't even hate Ryan O'Hearn. He's 2,800 on DK, and he does have power, even though he's been down this year for sure. He does have power, and he has it somewhere in there. He just has to like combine his rings together to make Captain Planet, and he'll be good to go. I think it's an okay spot to go to Kansas City here. And I just find it hard to not go there. But I would favor mini stacks personally, just because I think everybody's going to try to full stack. And Jackson can give it up to a full stack for sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in his career, Jackson is very, very bad. Bad to the point where I don't even think I got to any of him at 4.
How did he get another team? Like, how did another team go like, yeah, I saw what this guy did for Toronto. Let's get him in the mix.
That's such a good question. I was asking Alex that today on our show. I don't know. And Adam and Josh had a lengthy discussion about that as well.
I think he started with Detroit. No, did he start with Seattle or Detroit? He's been on like more than half the league at this point, I think. But I feel like maybe they had a sentimental thing with like, we'll bring him in and we'll also tank a little, and it'll be like a nice thing to bring Edwin Jackson back. I guess that's the only thing I could see. Like the equivalent of like when they sign a guy and then he retires the next day, but except He's actually pitching and being terrible, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's good for DFS though, for one way or the other.
He should pitch every day. Like, honestly, like let's just see what happens. Why not? Go down the rabbit hole. Get weird with it.
Yeah. And then the bullpen afterwards is pretty tough too. Tigers are a joke of a team, so.
They are. They seem like they are tanking. Like MLB tanking, not quite as much of a thing as like NBA or even NFL. But they really do seem like they're in tank mode with the Castellanos trade and some of these lineups they're putting out. They're like just even putting Duel Lugo in any lineup at this point. Guys just does nothing, and yeah, it's a pretty bad lineup.
Alex says it's because the Tigers don't want to start the clock on any minor leaguers.
Okay,
That's sense.
Logical. Yeah. Fading Edwin Jackson always a good idea. Fading Edwin Jackson as the opposing pitcher generally not a good idea.
I think maybe just like not having him on your team is what he's saying.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like we're not. Yeah, don't go to Edwin Jackson today, to be clear. But yeah, like just yeah, I wouldn't say fading like the opportunity going against Edwin Jackson. Like anytime Edwin Jackson's on the slate, I would say play the team against him because he has shown no ability to do anything. Like really just can't. I just don't get how this can occur. His barrel ball rate on the year, Jake, actually guess what it is? He's the highest on the slate. I'll tell you that up front.
For Jackson?
Yeah.
13%.
16.4%. So which
man.
is, yeah, I think the highest, actually, let me just double check my math. That would be the highest rate by almost 4%. The next highest would be Brian Johnson.
Oh, that is, that's pretty rough company. Speaking of Brian Johnson, what about Angels? Did you get any of them?
I'm getting him in the projections. I don't like Justin Upton at all. Like, I think when he's going against a lefty, he just has nothing at all to offer. And let me just pull up his numbers real fast because they are just so bad.
He's been really bad this year, right?
Yeah. So going back to last year, which I know he was hurt for a good chunk of that too, but 45 WRC plus at 185 at bats, a 109 ISO, 164 batting average, hard contact 32%. I don't know what it is. He just can't hit lefties, it seems. So yeah, no, I kept getting him, and I'm like, I still am playing some of them. I think I'm actually with the field on Justin Upton, but I would play Trout, and I feel like that would be the move. I would just one-off Trout.
One-offing Trout is always a pretty
another brave take
idea.
by me.
No, I definitely second that. But I'm 4x the field right now on DK of Ohtani. Just all these guys I'm getting a lot of, so they're probably a top 3 stack for me, I would say right now. Really like the Angels against Brian Johnson in this park. I'm hoping this one goes off. A little bit of fireworks at Fenway tonight.
Okay, yeah. I didn't get there, and I actually deliberately went the other way. I just like Trout is a 147 WRC plus versus lefties. Everybody else here under a 100. You have Upton at that 45 that we mentioned. Max Stassi, who is coming up a lot, because he's very cheap on DraftKings at 2K. He is at a 58 WRC plus with a 32% K rate. I just don't see the reason to go here as much, especially on a slate of this size. But I get it. I know Johnson's been bad enough. He's not missing bats. He's given up a 2.1 whip on the year. But I don't know. I don't trust the Angels in this spot because there's just nobody really appealing besides Trout.
Well, I have to agree to disagree, but we'll see.
We will see. They did come up. I think we now formulate our lineups with the leverage stuff in a similar way, and I kept getting them. So I see why you did. I was just like, no, sir. And if that ends up being wrong, I will learn a valuable lesson, I guess, would be the best way.
Yeah, man. I've learned that lesson in the worst way, going against the projections.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're probably right. I just cannot trust that. I was getting whole Angels outfields, getting a bunch of Angels in the outfield, and just didn't work for me.
No, I understand it too. I understand it too because it's like the best parts of the stack, like Trout, Ohtani, Upton, depending on how you feel about Upton. Those are the guys that are all owned. So you want to play those guys in the stack, and then it's harder to differentiate after that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's a perfectly fair point. Anybody else you're getting stack-wise? We hit on all the main stacks, which I think stand out a tier above the others, but anybody weird that you're getting who you want to hit on?
How about St. Louis against Chris Archer? That was one I was surprised to get to a little bit just because St. Louis has been pretty bad against righties. But Archer also does give up some power. He has the high strikeout rate, but Carpenter back in the lineup certainly helps. Sort of a lefty-heavy lineup the Cardinals are rolling out today. And they're just another one that's pretty decent value that's not getting a ton of ownership. I imagine they're going to be over-owned on DraftKings. Yeah, just a little bit, but decent chance of being the top value as well.
Yeah, I get that logic. Archer does give up a ton of power, especially to lefties, as you mentioned, a 222 ISO to lefties overall. So Carpenter being back in there should get help. as should Tommy Edman. And from the other side, Dexter Fowler as well, who's shown some pop occasionally. But I actually ended up with more Archer because of the ownership on the Cardinals. So I actually have a little bit of Archer, I guess, just with the field on him as where it will end up shaking out. But yeah, not much Cardinals for me, even though I did force in, I think, 1 or 2 stacks of them. But I ended up with a little bit of Archer kind of organically, where I think he's a good play. I mean, the strikeouts have been there, 26% K rate, but he does walk guys on a lot, and he also gives up that power. So walking guys plus power can be a tough thing to want to roster him, and it could give value to the Cardinals as a mini stack.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Man, it feels like there's so many spots tonight, like pitching and hitting, that you could kind of make a case for, even for a 14-game slate. Like, there's people in the YouTube chat saying names and, team names. That's like, man, we didn't really talk about them, but I could see it. Like, I don't know, though. I'm kind of, just to reiterate, it's LA, it's the Yankees, it's Boston for me. Thought I would actually get some Dodgers with this Robbie Ray ownership, but I'm not quite getting there. And then for value stacks, it's KC and St. Louis are kind of my favorite ones to go to.
Yeah, I mean, it's KC is my value stack for sure. And then I'm paying up for a lot of Houston. I'm trying to find ways to get there, and I got enough in there where I feel comfortable with it. And yeah, I think the way that I got there was a lot of Tyler Beede and Drew Smiley, which not the most fun, but as long as I got my Jordan Alvarez, as long as I got my Mike Trout price Jordan Alvarez, I think I'll be okay, hopefully.
Yeah, I got 24% Smiley, so basically right at the field, 24% Beede. So about double the field there. So wow, I got to 20% Kyle Freeland. Josh would be so proud of me right now. Did he make a home run pick, by the way?
He did not. I think he's out doing stuff today. He's actually enjoying life, perhaps, on a Friday.
Well, there you go. He won't be, he'll be enjoying life. You know why? Because me and him will be running it back 2 times tomorrow. The strategy show and live before lock. Actually, we might just do 2 live before locks. No. Scratch that. The slate starts, I think, at 4 Eastern or something, 3 Eastern. So we'll do a strategy show in the morning, and then
wait, there's no live before lock tomorrow?
No, there's live before lock at night. I was thinking.
Oh, okay. I was like, God, am I missing a Saturday? Am I not working a Saturday where there's no show? Because I'd be so pissed about that.
No, so no, that's me and Josh will be running it back twice, and then if you don't love that enough, Josh and I will be running it back again on Sunday morning for live before lock. So you'll be seeing a lot of my face with the old Chubster.
Hold on, I need to reply to something in YouTube chat because this guy's saying we don't we haven't ignored anybody. I answered like several questions, including an either or. We prioritize Slack and don't love either ors. That's unfair. This guy also complaining.
It's also not true what he's saying. I mean,
no, especially me, I'm the most YouTube. I look at YouTube first, and then Slack. Usually, people tag me, then I'll go back over there. But yeah,
if there's an interesting general strategy question, I think that's something that we could talk about. Then yeah, for sure. But Trout or Yelich, it's just look at the projection, buy the projections first, become an Osmo.com member, and then you can see for yourself. Then you don't have to ask.
Yeah, and I'm I choose to talk to the people in YouTube every day on my video. I love YouTubers, so don't be Jose Farias being butthurt. I'm actually curious, what did he ask?
I think that's a vocal minority rather than how the majority feel. I think there's always that feedback somewhere.
I think he's just literally complaining. All right, well, I didn't see him ask anything. Actually, real fast for Otis the Trucker on YouTube. Chris, who do you like for the late slate stack? He's not just asking me, but Jake, who do you like in the late slate?
Late slate. Let me see. I think there's a 4-gamer on DK. So
yeah, that's going to be San Diego, right? Yeah. So I assume Freeland with his ownership in the main slate, it's going to be pretty highly owned in that night slate. So I would go San Diego for sure.
I would be definitely trying to get some San Diego bats if I was making a handful of lineups. I do like Beeks better on that slate as well. It's kind of a tough price, but you're getting cheaper stacks because it's a West Coast. It's a West Coast thing. Just the stacks are cheaper because the parks are more favorable to pitching. Obviously, still love Buehler, still love Ray, but probably would be more likely to get Dodgers on that late slate against Ray because his ownership's going to be pretty up there on the 2-pitcher sites especially. So if you want to see where his ownership's going to be at, we've got night slate ownership projections, guys. So go check those out. Grind every slate like the great ones do.
Yeah, go use that promo code live before lock for half off your first month. And again, as Jake mentioned, we are doing night slate ownership projections as well as the top stacks tools now updated for each individual slate. So go check it out for the night slate as well. And yeah, I think I would agree too, by the way. I think I would probably try to go Buehler and then go with the Padres and Dodgers stack in the night slate because based on what I think the ownership will be. But yeah, that would be my approach. But obviously, salt to taste, try different things. But there you go, guys. So hit that like button before you go. Go check out Jake and Josh all weekend long on the YouTube channel. Go send some love to EMAC too, just for being a good dude. And please hit that like button before you go because we appreciate that a ton. It helps us keep the lights on the channel much more than complaining about not reading questions when I literally all I do is just look at questions and do that. But we appreciate the support of you guys who actually do offer support genuinely all week long. So hope you guys have a great weekend and we shall see you again soon, guys. Good luck.